Hey, welcome back to Shea Butter Chanel for lesson 11 out of 46 for the 46 years of my, I won't be saying like that, for the 46 years of my life. I'm making this video based off of the fact that October was not only my birthday month, but there's a lot of awareness months that happen in October. And one of them is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I made a post about that and what it means to me because I was fortunate enough to share my testimony of my personal survivor story at my church's women's conference a couple months ago. And so I'm one of the people that made it out alive. And what I thought that was interesting is that so many women, regardless of race and age, came up to me after I spoke at the conference, and they were basically co-signing, your story was my story. One girl even said, what I said was small compared to what happened to her, which I think is interesting because who wants to compare whose abuse story is worse? But that's neither here nor there. But the point of this video is to basically give you the lesson. The lesson is never tolerate abuse. Never tolerate it. Never tolerate it. And so my POV, my point of view, is basically coming from the point of domestic violence. And I'm going to start out with saying I think that there might be a great many of people out there or people that may be watching this video who don't even think that they are in a domestic violence relationship. First of all, let's define what domestic violence is. It's violence that happens between two people that know each other within even the same household, right? And so it's not all just between two people who are sexually or romantically involved, but domestic violence happens within the same domicile, which is where we get domestic violence. So it can mean abuse with children. It can be, it's domestic. It's happening within a unit. It's more a family or family representative unit, if you will. But it extends itself to intimate partner violence. And so it's all under the domestic violence umbrella. So I say that people don't know that they are in domestic violence because I think domestic violence starts with the programming that we get within our upbringing, within our homes. And so we may have seen blatant physical violence, blatant physical abuse, even substance abuse, and all of that, as striking as it may have been initially when we were in the throes of it. We learned certain coping skills and survival skills. And we may have even pledged that we would never, ever, ever continue to live in that situation. When we get good and grown, I'll never live through that. I'll never tolerate it. And what I have come to realize, even within my own life, is when it's not dealt with, when it is not totally healed, when you have not done the work or even tried to seek professional counseling to deal with those things, you really don't know that you are a victim of domestic violence until you are quite possibly in it. And so for me, it was when I found myself being brutally beaten by my ex-husband, and it wasn't a first-time occurrence, but that particular time, I really felt like my life was on the line, and so when it gets to that, and as I reflect, I began to look back. When you have time by yourself, when you're dealing with you, I can pinpoint and say I've always been in domestic violence. And so I witnessed my mother being brutally beaten by her husband for years. And then even though she would eventually leave him, she still had relationship after relationship where the men were physically abusive, um, financially abusive. It was so much that was just ingrained in the culture. So when I began to have romantic relationships, even as a young girl, I gravitated towards guys who were just a couple of years older than me. But even that, I think, was me looking for a power structure, a power dynamic. So they either were older physically or bigger and dominant and way more possessive and domineering, and their characteristics were very oppressive. And because it was clouded with a lot of sex and we were constantly in each other's presence a lot, it felt like love. But when I think about it, the possessiveness and the jealousy and all of that, I see the patterns where it was leading to that. And so eventually, with every romantic relationship that I had, there was some kind of, the long-term relationship specifically, there would be abuse. If they didn't hit me, they would threaten me. Or I remember one guy in college, in the dead of winter in Chicago, he got upset with me and he dropped me off on the side of Lakeshore Drive. So if you don't know, Lakeshore Drive is exactly what it sounds like. It's an expressway, the drive that literally hugs Lakeshore, the lakeshore of Lake Michigan. And it's freezing cold out there. And that boy put me off. And I had no wallet or nothing to get back to campus. And so I literally walked miles in the freezing cold back to campus. And I thought I loved that guy too. And so I say all this to say that an abusive man is usually not just abusive in one area only, too. You will notice patterns of abuse, even towards himself, that he doesn't take care of. So he may be abusive in alcohol or illicit drugs. He may have his character is not going to be confined to just how he treats you. I would observe how his character is towards other women. Does the fact that even when I was coming up, calling a woman a bitch was actually a part of rap culture so heavily, and it was almost accepted, and so guys could easily call a girl a B. If you think about like people like Tupac, who I used to love, and Tupac would go flip between very good positive rap, but then he could flip and go, and we could be B's as well coming out of his mouth. It's so interesting. Look at his old videos, interviews, and he could say some very prolific things, but he was still a twisted individual too. And so at no point is it healthy, is it sustainable to be in abusive relationship. If you are a believer, a Christian believer, a believer in Jesus Christ, then you are familiar with John 10:10, or you should be, where it says, the devil comes to only kill, steal, and destroy. Kill, steal, and destroy. And if he could use a man to come through you in terms of abuse, then he will do just that. So at the outside of it, yes, the abuse is the bigger thing, but abuse, if it oppresses you long enough, it can take you off course for God's will for your life. It can derail you. It could literally end your life. And so I am a zero tolerance person. If I know anybody that trusts me to confide in me that they are being abusive, or if I discern that someone's being abused, I'm going to tell them to leave them. I unfortunately for me, I do not know of any woman who has been in an abusive relationship and the partner has actually changed, at least while they were with them. And so I think that sometimes The healthy thing is for people to be apart so that the abuser can get the help that they need. I think that when we stay with the abusers, they don't have an incentive to change. There are no consequences for their actions, and they don't have the, I would say, the concentrated focus a long time to deal with their shit. So yeah, again, zero tolerance abuse. Don't go for it. Don't play for your life. And that's it. That's the post. That's what I learned in my 46 years of life after seeing my mama be abused. But I mean, dragged. And I just couldn't believe that what I said I would never go through, I ended up in. And when I realized that, I said, this is never ended well for nobody I know. It's time to go. Don't tolerate abuse.